We need a theme song. So could you please send me a theme song? 'Cause we don't really have a theme song. And we could really use a theme song. Send us a song. I welcome you wherever you may sit from my home that sits on Treaty 8 land, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree and Dene. This territory is home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. I thank the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. Tremendously grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. I make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory I reside on. Hello, everybody. It's me, Alyssa, here for you on Thursday evening for this week's Poetry Cafe. Just me today. I have had kind of a busy week. Busy seems like the wrong word for my week. But my week involved saying goodbye to my grandmother, Nanny, and yeah, I wanted to think about her and hold a little bit of space for all that she means to me. So I wrote a poem. This is most likely going to be a very short virtual variety night tonight because it's just the one poem about my grandma. But first, I'll talk a little bit about what I was thinking about and where this poem came from. So it is hard to put into words all of the special things about my grandma. And it's hard for me to kind of pinpoint what her influence is exactly because there's kind of a lot. You know, she was a really cool person, you know, in lots of ways. And we didn't always agree on everything, and that's okay. She was really loving. And her and my grandpa modeled a really wonderful marriage to me, which was delightful to watch growing up. When I was like in my teens and young adult, I would stay with them and just really enjoyed myself. I feel like I'm rambling a lot because I don't know how to put into words everything that she means to me. But one of the things I was thinking of is about creativity and where my creativity comes from. And my grandma wasn't an actor like I occasionally aspire to be. As far as I know, she wasn't really a writer. But she had a tremendous influence on my creative development. And the reason why I think is because while I met her mother, so my great grandmother, who had passed a lot of this stuff down to her, my grandma was really my nanny, was kind of my connection to that. I didn't know her mother very well. I'd met her, but I wasn't close with her like I was with Nanny. And Um, Nanny passed a lot of things down to my mom, who also passed them along to me. And two things that come to mind is sewing, knitting, that kind of thing, and baking. And both of those are things where you take this raw materials and create something brand new with them. Um, and there's something so gorgeous about that, that I was trying to figure out how to put words to. Like why that meant something to me, and why I love taking letters and turning them into words, turning them into stories, turning them into like breathing life into them. And a lot of that is to think about a piece of cloth and all the things that can become, or these different ingredients that together become something entirely different. I sometimes do get a little bit starstruck at the idea of meeting somebody who wasn't taught that, who didn't have their grandmother teach them, or their mother teach them, or their great grandmother pass along the recipe. They just had to figure it out from themselves. That kind of creativity blows my mind. Um, and that's my connection to it, is my nanny. Anyway, this poem is called Meaning. I finished it at 8:01, and so I hope that I have so much trouble with this silly computer. I try and make it do one thing, and then it doesn't. It does something else. There we go. So this poem is called Meaning. And again, I wrote it, over the last 20 minutes. But had thought about this idea of wanting to talk about this connection to creativity that I found through my grandmother. Meaning. But grandmother, what's the point? The wee girl cried. I want to play and sing and jump and run, and you want me to stop to do hard things. And the grandmother stopped for a moment, put down the hard things she had been wrestling, sat in a rocking chair, and pulled the wee girl into her lap. Grandmother rocked back and back and back and back until the wee girl settled. There is no point spouting off wisdom to a soldier under attack. She'll never hear you. Tell me, dear one, grandmother whispered. What meaning is there in the easy days that follow behind like a long strand of wool that seems endless but will surely run out? It may well wind around itself forever in a curl that does nothing more than take up a little space. Or it may stretch out long and take up very little space to speak of. And unless you snag yourself on it, you won't notice it at all. What meaning is there in wool taken from the sheep and spun to yarn if it warms no one? Grandmother reached beside her and took up 2 needles and a long strand of wool. She made knots with the needles, her fingers flying, and told the wee one stories. Stories of when she was a girl and she had to walk to school, and sometimes the mosquitoes were a thick cloud she had to itch her way through. And sometimes she got teased, and sometimes she felt hungry, and sometimes grandmother told story after story of heartbreak and fear, of regret and worry and doubt and despair. For every knot in the wool, there was another memory of working her way through all of the hard. But after all that, said grandmother, do you know what I learned? This collection of knots will keep me warm. And that means more than a long, easy strand of yarn without any knots. Do you know what I learned? Said the wee one, a gleam in her eye. What did you learn? Asked her grandmother. This blanket will make a real neat fort. Thank you. So that's it. I feel like I always bring you stuff that I want to work on more, so that's another one that I would like to work on more. So surprise, surprise. That's just kind of how it goes. I've been doing lots of other thinking. I feel like there's so much going on that gets so intertwined in my head that it's hard to parse my way through all of it. And part of me wants to just talk about it and with a bunch of different people and get a bunch of different people's opinions. And part of me wonders if next week we should discuss some of these pressing political issues on this platform. And then I remember why I love the arts and what I believed when I was going into theater school and why I chose that avenue was that revolution begins through the arts. If we want social change, art is kind of where people start to play with that idea. So maybe enough people are debating, and maybe the artists among us need to explore a little bit of these ideas. I'm not sure. Anyway, I told you it would be short and sweet today, not even 15 minutes. But it was lovely to chat with you. And it was lovely to spend a bit of time with my grandmother today. She passed yesterday, and I hope to find a bit of time each day to spend with her. One of the things that I had found, sorry, sidebar. One of the things that I found over my life is that this has worked for me twice. That a grief tattoo, how I found it really helpful and meaningful. And when there two deaths in particular that just one of them I dealt with for processed for a really long time before getting the tattoo because I was anyway. And from when I got the tattoo on, it was just so therapeutic for me. And then the other one I got like right away after the person died, and it was instantly just so helpful. And there's something about wanting to wear my honor of them on my skin so that I don't need to live in the kind of sad side of grief. Um, yeah, there's something about wearing my grief that really helps me move into a space of finding or accentuating the love of grief rather than the loss of grief. And so I thought for a minute, I was like, what would I get for my grandma? She would just hate if I got a tattoo. I mean, she'd see my tattoos and she liked them. Like it's not that she's unsupportive of anything. She's lovely. It's just, yeah, I don't know what I would get to honor her because I just feel like she wouldn't like it. That's what I think. On others, she would like it more, maybe, but maybe not on me. I don't know. Anyway, Nanny, I love you. And it was lovely to have this poetry cafe to give me some time to think about you. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. Have a lovely evening. And if you can, give your grandmother a kiss. And if you can't, then take a breath. We need a theme song, so could you please send me a theme song? 'Cause we don't really have a theme song, and we could really use a theme song. Send